You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Now get the guns, the drugs, to my generation, I'll take the fall. The saints, look off the nation, and it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Welcome back to Reliving the War, and welcome to the 3rd of April 2000, the night after WrestleMania. This week's episode is going to be a little different, seeing as WCW presented a recap show and not a live event. As announced last week on Nitro, like 1,000 times, Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff are returning to the company. And these two felt that the old WCW had to get burned to the ground in order for a new WCW to rise from the ashes. So this week they wanted to take Nitro off the air so they had time to prepare for this new era, and they decided to present a Best of Nitro show instead just to buy themselves a little more time. I'm not going to cover the matches and moments included in this Best of show, but I do want to talk a bit more about Russo and Bischoff coming back and how it all happened. So before we check out this week's episode of Raw, let's look at how all this came to be. Eric Bischoff signed his new WCW contract on the 14th of March, nearly a month ago, and he was brought in as a creative consultant. At first, Eric wasn't too eager. He was moving his family to Arizona and he was a little busy when Brad Siegel offered him the opportunity to return. However, Eric got an offer that he really couldn't refuse. He would be bought out of his current deal, which was believed to be worth $904,000, according to Guy Evans in his excellent Nitro book, and his new contract would promise $200,000 for the remainder of the year 2000 and another $200,000 for 2001. Turner held the option to renew the deal in 2002 and 2003, and these years would see a rise to $350,000 and $400,000 respectively. So Eric was going to receive close to $1 million if he came back, pending his continued employment throughout 2002 and 2003. Eric was also hired on an independent contractor basis. He would receive bonus compensation for reaching pay-per-view and TV rating benchmarks, and TBS would also create 3 made-for-TV movies where Eric Bischoff would get a producer credit, opening the doors for Eric to possibly move on to bigger and better things in Hollywood if he decided to do so in later life. One day after signing this contract, Siegel asked Bischoff if he would work alongside Vince Russo. Russo was receiving full pay to sit at home, and Brad felt Bischoff and Russo could come together to form a new creative team that would pull WCW out of the hole it found itself in, thanks to Bill Bush's creative team spearheaded by Kevin Sullivan. Russo was in danger of breaching his contract. He couldn't sit at home forever and receive paychecks from WCW, and it's not like Russo could go back to the WWF, seeing as, well, the WWF didn't really need him at this point. Russo didn't like working with others. He walked out of WCW back in January because he was asked to work with others, but Vince had no option but to work with Eric if he wanted to keep his livelihood. So, Vince and Eric agreed to work together, and on March 16th, Brad Siegel informed Bill Bush that Eric and Vince were coming back. Bill had just brought in Jerry Jarrett to become his personal consultant and advisor, but he needn't have bothered, because WCW Creative was going through a total shake-up. The announcement shocked everyone. Bill Bush felt betrayed, and he quickly drew up his resignation letter, and he would leave WCW for good after being employed there for 10 years. Eric and Vince would meet up to discuss how they were going to move forward, and you do need to keep in mind here that Vince Russo didn't particularly like Eric Bischoff. He recalled speaking with Eric before he got involved in WWF Creative, and Eric was, in Russo's recollection, very arrogant and very condescending, something that Eric had no recollection of, or at least he didn't care enough to remember what was said. Still, they put this all behind them, and they had to try and align their philosophies in order to creatively present 2 key stories in WCW, those being the return of Bill Goldberg and something that Brad Siegel called the next big idea, something akin to what Bischoff achieved during the launch of Nitro and the rise of the New World Order. And this would turn out to be the New Blood storyline, an idea that Russo tried to present upon entering WCW last year, but as you know, it was kinda half-hearted. Vince and Eric were ready to launch a new era of WCW. Bill Bush and the current booking committee had failed. The WWF were on fire, and this was WCW's final Hail Mary. If this failed, then the future of the company would be in jeopardy. Over on the Superstation this week, the Best of Thunder would air that featured highlights from WCW's secondary TV show. Yeah, Thunder highlights, imagine that. During this show, Hulk Hogan sat down with Mike Tenay to talk about where WCW's been and where it's headed under this new creative team. So before we look at what happened on the Raw after Mania, let's check out a few things Hogan had to say during this interview.
Well, the first thing I have to say, Mike, is hallelujah. I mean, the barn is on fire and somebody needs to throw a bucket of water on it. And when I think about Bischoff and Russo, maybe these are the guys that can help put this fire out. Eric did a lot of good things to make the WCW a major player. And with the help of Hulk Hogan, I think we can put the fire out completely. As far as Russo goes, I don't know the man very well. I've had a couple conversations with him. Seems to be a very intelligent human being. Now, if he's learned his lessons, if he realizes that he has to tone it down a bit, I think with Eric acting as the filter, they may be one heck of a combination. With the younger guys, I mean, they've been on TV 3 years getting the so-called push from the office. And I've been watching the numbers at the house shows. With everybody that's been on TV the last 3 years, there may be a $30,000 or $40,000 house. For example, 2 weeks ago, I went to Chicago for an on sale. One match announced, Hulk Hogan versus Sid. The old bad guy turns on the good guy scenario. And the next thing you know, there's $200,000 in the first day of sales. You've got to go with the guys that are established. The young guys, if they're going to get established, they need to, right now, jump on the bandwagon. This is the new day for WCW. This is the time for them to show what they've got. And the young guys like Billy Kidman that, if they don't get the push, they're going to pack their bags up and go elsewhere. I have the same thing to say to him that I said before. You couldn't sell out a flea market on your best day. You're not even good enough to be the flea market champion. Until you prove yourself, until you outshine Hulk Hogan, until you out-wrestle Hulk Hogan, until you fight your way, drag yourself with one arm over broken glass to get to the top, it doesn't mean anything. And just a push from the office won't get it. You have to prove you're the best. You'll prove you'll go above and beyond and see the Make-A-Wish kids on your days off. You have to prove that you'll, sign autographs for an extra couple hours if there are more fans to see you. And more than that, you have to work real hard to take my job because I'm not moving aside for anybody. Some of the other guys, Billy Kidman and some of the smaller wrestlers, first off, they need to spend more time in the gym. They need to, physically, their stature has to be much larger. They have to be more aggressive physically, and they can only get that by training hard. I mean, they have to get their heads out of their rear ends and realize the ego check and the fact that they think they should get a push. They need to earn the push. There should be no more crybabies. I've heard so much about Billy Kidman whining and crying and wanting to be a major star. These guys need to prove themselves, But there's a place in this business for an all-American character like Hulk Hogan with an edge. Because, the training, the prayers, the vitamins of the 80s is boring. It's repetitive. But the training, the prayers, the vitamins that I'm going to kick your ass is the edge that Hulk Hogan has. I've always had that in me. Even as a good guy, I've had that edge where, I had to hold my tongue, bite my tongue, and not really knock somebody right between the eyes when I felt like it. I think the transition I made with the Hollywood Hogan was reinventing myself at the genius level. I think that even the red and yellow today, I have that edge in me.
The remainder of Reliving the War this week will only cover Raw. Raw takes place in Los Angeles, California, and No Chance in Hell plays in the arena. Shane McMahon makes his way down to the ring, and Shane supports his dad 100% in regards to what he did last night at WrestleMania. Shane says he's proud to be Vince's son, he's proud to bear the McMahon name, and Shane says he loves his dad so much that he wants to continue what Vince started last night at the pay-per-view. Shane McMahon is challenging The Rock to a one-on-one match for our Raw main event tonight. Shane calls The Rock out, but instead he gets Triple H and Stephanie. Stephanie's looking a bit sore after taking the rock bottom in people's elbow last night, and it takes her a bit of time to get inside the ring. Steph says she'll never forgive nor forget what The Rock did to her at WrestleMania. Even though she slapped Rocky, she sure didn't deserve a rock bottom and a people's elbow. And Steph says she's so sore that she feels like she's been in a skiing accident. Yeah. Triple H grabs the microphone. He calls Steph his sweet little innocent frail wife. The Rock put his hands on Stephanie, and so Triple H also wants to face Rocky in the main event. He confirms it won't be a title match. Hunter's already given Rock his opportunity and the Great One failed. So if Rock's got the guts, he'll face Triple H tonight one-on-one, man-to-man. Next out, it's Vince McMahon, the rotten bastard who screwed Rock over last night at WrestleMania. He gives Stephanie a hug, which confirms everything's all good now between Vince and his daughter, and he also shakes hands with Triple H. Vince slowly approaches Shane, the boy wonder extends his hand, father and son embrace, and so it appears the whole McMahon clan is back together. Vince says he had other plans for Rocky tonight. Mr. McMahon actually wants to fight The Rock in the Raw main event, but Vince also says he's pretty sure the people want an explanation as to why he did what he did last night at the pay-per-view. Vince says he answers to no one, he doesn't need to give anyone any kind of explanation, but he calls the fans in LA a bunch of egomaniacs, a bunch of phonies who go under surgeries to make themselves look different. McMahon seriously blobbers on here about these LA fans being bottom feeders and how these fans get their dreams shattered over and over again because they want to be big stars in Hollywood. It's quite impressive how much nonsense he talks without actually saying anything. Whether it's Shane versus The Rock, Hunter versus The Rock, or Vince versus The Rock, one of these guys are going to try to drive Rocky out of the business tonight on Raw, and Rock will have a new job waiting tables. A very disappointing promo here, seeing as we all wanted answers after what McMahon did last night at WrestleMania. 16 minutes of runtime, and all we got out of it was a reunited McMahon family.
By the way, I want to say hi to my one little fan out there. Hello, Smokey, my cat.
Chris Jericho defends his newly won European Championship against Eddie Guerrero in our Raw opening match, and Chyna's here to stand in Jericho's corner. Eddie says he knows Chyna's only here because she wants some Latino heat, but Eddie's going to set her aside tonight so he can win the European title while making his Spanish ancestors proud. The two throw down at the opening bell, Eddie gets cocky and he ends up getting dropped on the top turnbuckle. Y2J is able to lift Eddie high in the air before slamming him to the mat, but Eddie's able to avoid a powerbomb and Chris takes a clothesline. Guerrero's trying to impress Chyna right here as he goes on offense. The crowd chant Eddie sucks as he performs a jumping back elbow, and this gets followed up with a sleeper hold. Chyna watches on closely as the hold remains locked in, and Eddie applies it one more time when Y2J breaks free. A back suplex gets Chris out of danger this time around. The two trade chops on the outside. Eddie goes right back in control. Back in the ring, Latino Heat pulls off a suplex and Eddie just can't keep his eyes off Chyna. Chyna doesn't look too amused, but Eddie's having a great time. Guerrero goes for the frog splash, Chris moves out of the way, but then Chris goes for a drop toe hold and the referee gets taken out. Something's going to happen here, folks. Chris is able to deliver his lion salt, but we don't have a referee. Chyna takes it upon herself to get in the ring and count the 1, 2, 3, and then, when celebrating this quote-unquote victory, Chyna decides to attack Chris Jericho and the Ayatollah takes a DDT. The crowd are in shock as it looks like Chyna has indeed succumbed to Eddie's Latino heat, and after Eddie wins via pinfall, he seems shocked that Chyna actually helped him. Realizing that yes, the ninth wonder of the world has indeed seen the light, Eddie embraces Chyna, and there you go, the beginning of a long and entertaining partnership right here on Raw's War. I've been looking forward to this one beginning for a long time, folks. I love this storyline. Jericho got screwed. He only held the European belt for one night, but the way Chyna sees it, Chris Jericho's yesterday's news, and from this point on, she's gonna be Eddie's mamacita. Stephanie wants Triple H to face The Rock tonight. She tries to convince her dad to let Hunter get revenge for what Rock did at WrestleMania, and Vince says he'll think about it. Seems like the power dynamics now shifted a little on Raw, and judging by this conversation, it looks like Vince McMahon is now back in charge and he has final say when it comes to match bookings. I'm sure this will get contradicted soon enough though. Shane comes in a little later, hoping that he's going to be the one who faces Rock later, and Vince again says he'll think about it. Shane accepts this as his dad saying yes, but Vince says he hasn't made up his mind yet. D-Generation X, consisting of Road Dogg and X-Pac, defeated TNA in our next match, and for whatever reason, the creative team decided that DX should win here and not the hot upcoming tag team who got a win last night at WrestleMania. TNA defeated Blackman and Snow at the pay-per-view. Road Dogg and X-Pac were defeated by Kane and Rikishi. So I fail to see the upside here in regards to DX beating Test and Albert, except for maybe the company wanted to give DX a win simply because they put Kane and Keish over last night at the pay-per-view. It ended with a low blow followed by the X Factor. Kane did not interfere in the match, so maybe the X-Pac vs Kane feud is finally over. Backstage, Kurt Angle's complaining to Hardfinkel about what happened at WrestleMania. Angle didn't get pinned, he didn't submit, yet he still lost both his championship belts. The Fink tells Kurt that the rules were clearly stated. Hard respects Angle, but unfortunately, Kurt is no longer a champion. And Kurt seems to accept this as he shakes Fink's hand. Moments later though, Angle runs back into frame and he puts Fink in a crossface chicken wing, so clearly Kurt Angle hasn't gotten over losing his belts. It's true, it's true. Speaking of which, Chris Benoit, the man who won Kurt's IC title last night at WrestleMania, is going to defend his newly won championship next against Tazz. So much potential here, but it's hard to get excited after the way Tazz has been booked since his debut. Benoit takes the early lead, but he gets put down with a head and arm Tazzplex. Chris shakes it off, Tazz takes a chop, we see a snap suplex from Chris, and then Tazz lands on his head when getting dumped to the outside. After a few chops, Benoit brings Tazz back inside the ropes, and yeah, this has been pretty basic so far. Benoit then applies a sharpshooter. Yeah, that's different. Tazz refuses to give up though, and our match continues on. He then gets brought down easily with a drop toe hold, and Benoit lays in a few mounted punches. Tazz hasn't even begun to get going here. This is pretty bad. Benoit finds himself in a Tazz mission, and that's when Perry Saturn runs down to the ring. The referee allows the match to continue, seeing as Tazz is able to suplex Perry from the top rope. But once Saturn gets taken care of, Tazz loses the match after a German suplex. A real letdown of a match right here. Tazz applies the Tazz mission on Saturn as the Radicals head back up the ramp. Benoit breaks it up. Tazz dashes up the ramp to try to get some more retribution, but just give it up, man. I don't even know why you're bothering at this point. Shane tells The Big Show he did a great job last night at WrestleMania, and I would like to point out right here the Big Show didn't do a great job at Mania. He got eliminated so early, and it's almost like he served no purpose in the main event Fatal 4-Way at all. Show says he'll always have Shane's back, but tonight he's going Hollywood. He wants to cut a rug, he wants to cut loose, he wants to be a Hollywood superstar. Absolute bizarre change in attitude right here from The Big Show, but trust me, it's going to get a whole lot worse. Back in the ring, Michael Cole welcomes the new tag team champions down to the ring while saying last night's triangle ladder match was one of the best tag team matches in the history of WrestleMania. Edge and Christian walk down the rampway looking pretty sore, and it's just weird seeing these guys actually walk down the ramp for a change and not coming through the audience. Edge takes the mic away from Michael Cole before saying he and Christian were great last night. Christian thinks these two were actually really great, as in really great, you know. But Edge admits he and his partner needed great teams to work against, and so he invites the Hardy Boys to come out for a chat. The new tag team champions are being quite condescending here. The Hardy Boys know it too. And when Christian says there's no shame in being second or even third best, the Dudley Boys come out to also join in on this little promo. Before the Dudleys can make it to the ring, Edge and Christian knock the Hardy Boys off the apron, and then Bubba and Devon get inside the ropes for a fight. Christian gets sent to the outside, Edge takes a 3D, and it all ends with the Hardys and the Dudleys brawling while officials and referees try to break things up. The tag champions have already headed back up the ramp, and they seem happy enough with the damage they've caused. Chyna gets a good look at Eddie Guerrero's sweet ride, and she likes what she sees. Eddie tells his mamacita to step into the love machine, and Eddie shows what his lowrider can do before the pair leave the arena. The Big Show then makes his entrance as he gets set to take on Rikishi. And for a man who just main evented WrestleMania last night, you'd think the WWF would have something planned for him, but no. I genuinely think the company were trying to send some sort of message here to show, because what happens here is just really weird. First of all, he gets treated like a chump during this one-on-one match. He tries to perform the worm, and yeah, God loves a trier and all, but it's not quite as good as Scotty 2 Hotties, is it? Show then takes a stink face from Rikishi, which is always pleasant, I'm sure, and the Grandmaster gets involved for absolutely no reason at all. This leads to Rikishi getting disqualified, but still doing absolutely nothing for Big Show overall. Scotty then performs his worm on last night's main eventer, and Too Cool then dance in the ring to celebrate Rikishi's loss, I guess. Big Show likes what he sees. He has a weird expression on his face as Too Cool and Rikishi dance away in the ring, and after a commercial break, Big Show comes back to the ring to cut a promo. He says there's much more to him than being this oversized giant that fans see every week on TV. The Big Show's a funny guy, apparently. He's a layered individual who likes to fight, he likes to relax, and he also likes to dance. Show tells the boys in the truck to hit the music, and he starts dancing. Now, normally this is something we would all laugh at, but again, it's just so weird seeing his Big Show main evented WrestleMania last night, and he also just got embarrassed by Rikishi moments before this promo. I guess we're going to see the Big Show trying to prove he's actually entertaining over the next few weeks, which means apparently someone must have thought he wasn't entertaining ever since coming to the WWF. Too Cool had a good laugh at Big Show back in the locker room. Grandmaster Sexay says Big Show couldn't cut a rug if he had a pair of scissors, and the Big Show should stick to doing what he does best. We find out who's going to face The Rock tonight when Triple H and Shane visit Mr. McMahon's office. There's only one way to do this, so the boys are going to draw straws. Whoever draws the short straw is going to face The Rock tonight in the main event, and it's the boy wonder who wins or loses. It's hard to tell because Shane doesn't look all that eager to face Rocky now that the match has been made official. The Rock says every one of Vince's decisions and all of Vince's accomplishments now mean nothing, because last night when Rock took 2 chair shots from McMahon, Vince made the absolute worst decision of his life. Rock's going to whoop Shane's candy ass tonight. He whooped Stephanie last night. Rock promises once again that he will become WWF Champion, and the journey starts again tonight on Raw. Next up, Crash Holly gets a shot at the Hardcore title when he faces his cousin Bastard Bob. The ending of the Hardcore Battle Royal last night was botched, and so the WWF need to get the title back on Crash and pretend like the WrestleMania Hardcore match never happened. Weapons galore here as Crash hits his cousin with the Hardcore belt before smacking him on the head with a bacon tray. Hardcore returns the favour by breaking a broom over Crash's back and blasting him with a fire extinguisher on the outside. Crash stops his cousin from hitting him with a chair, and instead it's Hardcore who takes a front suplex on the steel. And when the two head to the outside again, the APA make an appearance. Just like last night, Hardcore smashes a jar over Crash's head, but Bradshaw delivers a clothesline from hell to Bombastic Bob. And then, back in the ring, the Acolytes pull off a double spinebuster before allowing Crash to pin Hardcore. Crash paid a visit to the Acolyte Protection Agency, and thanks to Bradshaw and Farouk, he's once again Hardcore champion. But the boys don't save him from getting jumped by the Mean Street Posse. Unfortunately, the Gasman, Godly Rodney, and Joey Abs Ferdez were unable to win the Hardcore belt, and Crash manages to escape another episode of Raw with his championship. Triple H tries to give Shane some advice for his upcoming match against The Rock, but he really doesn't have anything to offer. Hunter knows The Rock's better than Shane, so all Triple H can say is be careful. The Big Show bumps in the Grandmaster Sexay in the locker room, and Show wants to know if his dancing was really that bad. And when Brian gives his honest opinion of it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either, the Big Show attacks the Grandmaster. Christopher gets put through a table before Show puts on the Grandmaster's headgear, and the big man announces he's got a meeting right now with his Hollywood agent. I'm sure you do. Next up, we've got Kurt Angle versus Val Venis, and Angle decided to interrupt what I'm sure was going to be another vulgar Val Venis promo. Kurt complains about losing both his belts last night. He's annoyed that he's gone from being a double champion to wrestling Val Venis. And seeing as Val Venis is one dirty, dirty man, Angle says he's going to wrestle this match while wearing sanitary gloves. I honestly don't blame you, Kurt. Unfortunately, Kurt doesn't get a chance to rub her up. Val attacks early, and Kurt really shouldn't have been worried because Venis wasn't much of a threat at all in this match. Notably, there's a few USA chants heard during the bout, so maybe the fans are starting to warm up to Angle a little. Folks in the audience got treated to a pretty decent match too that ended with Venis pushing Kurt off the top rope before going for the money shot. Angle moved out of the way, and Venis tapped out to the chicken wing. I honestly forgot Kurt used this move for as long as he did. No complaints here, decent enough match, let's move on. Vince McMahon tells Shane that he's got his back tonight in the Raw main event. No doubt Vince has something up his sleeve and he's got something in store tonight for The Rock. Shane seems both happy and relieved that his dad's providing him with some sort of backup. We then get a very short matchup between Kane and Bull Buchanan that went for a total of 1 minute and 15 seconds. There's a terrible botch here when Bull tries his top rope clothesline and the crowd actually laughed when he fell back down. Bull tried to go upstairs again, but the Big Red Machine was able to catch him by the neck. A chokeslam puts Buchanan down for the 1-2-3, and as expected, the Big Boss Man attacked Kane after the bell. Kane got handcuffed to the bottom turnbuckle, and Paul Bearer tried to help his son by delivering a chair shot. This had no effect on Buchanan, and it all ended with Kane taking a chair shot right to the hand. Can't say I'm too eager to see this rivalry play out, but it further confirms that Kane's business with X-Pac has been completely wrapped up. Raw ends this week with The Rock taking on Shane McMahon, and check it out, Shane thinks he's the people's champ. What a guy. Vince McMahon then walks down the ramp to provide backup for his son, and when The Rock's music hits, the Great One dashes down to the ring to try and get a piece of the chairman. Unfortunately, Vince gets out of harm's way. Shane tries to run away and he heads back up the ramp, but watch out Rocky, it's a trap. The game appears at the entranceway and Rock gets attacked by the WWF champion, and Rocky gets pummeled here from the top of the ramp all the way down to the bottom. Hunter launches Rock into the steel steps before throwing him into the ring. The bell sounds to start the match off, and Shane tries to win it after a second rope elbow drop. Rock kicks out, he lights Shane up, but Hunter pulls the bottom rope down and Rock goes flying out of the ring. Vince McMahon delivers a clothesline that sends Rocky over the commentary table, and if you're wondering why the referee isn't doing anything about this, it's because he's distracted. The worst referee of all time, ladies and gents. Back in the ring, Shane pulls off his jumping back elbow. He's now filled with confidence as he gets some advice from the game. Hunter gets in a cheap shot as our easily distracted referee once again misses what's going on, and Triple H is able to get in even more cheap shots as the McMahons keep Earl Hebner busy. JR says Shane thinks he's a slobber-knocking son of a gun as he prances around the ring before laying in more right hands to the Great One. He gets way too confident here though, and he ends up taking a spinebuster. A spinebuster that makes the crowd lose their collective mind. Vince gets on the apron, Rock takes him out, the referee gets caught in the crossfire, and this gives Triple H the opportunity to hit Rock with a pedigree. Hunter does his best to wake up Hebner, Earl finally comes around and he slowly begins his count. Rock kicks out at 2, and that's our match over, folks. Vince McMahon gets in the ring holding Hunter's WWF Championship belt. He swings at Rock, but the People's Champ dodges the attack. Both Vince and Shane get taken out, and these two decide to leave the ring, and this allows Triple H to attack Rock from behind. The referee sees it all, and I'm wondering why Hebner hasn't called for the bell to end this one via DQ, but it's because Rock performs the rock bottom on Triple H and he tells Earl to count the game's shoulders to the mat. This isn't an official victory, of course. Rock beats Shane via DQ, but he still takes the WWF Championship, and Raw ends with Rock celebrating in the ring while Vince, Shane and Stephanie look on bewildered. For a Raw after WrestleMania, I don't think this one was all that good. We are really none the wiser in regards to why McMahon turned on The Rock, and all we know is that The Rock's still going to continue his mission to win the WWF Championship. Storyline wise, there wasn't much here unfortunately, but I assume the upcoming Backlash pay-per-view may start shaping up a bit more next week. Do come over again next Thursday because we've got a very important episode of Nitro to look at. It's the dawn of a new WCW, and we're going to find out exactly what Russo and Bischoff's master plan is to save the company. Will it get people invested again? Are we going to put up with more overcooked Nitro shows presented at a breakneck speed? Come over next week and find out. So many questions, but no doubt it will be interesting. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Reliving the War. I hope you enjoyed it. And please, take care.